This is it, the 2.4 million ringgit Aston Martin Vantage. An achingly beautiful sports car with an engine at the front, two equally beautiful people in the middle, and drive sent to the back. It's as British as 007. But it's got a German engine, a Canadian bankrolling the entire project, and now we're in sunny Seville in Spain to see whether this new Vantage is truly the driver's car that Aston says it is. Let's go. It's been 4 years since Canadian billionaire Lawrence Stroll took control of Aston Martin. And it's safe to say, the company is on a bit of a roll lately. Last year came the DB12, Aston's latest Grand Tourer. And just a few months ago, we saw the revised DBX 707 with an all-new interior. And now we come to the Vantage. Aston says it's been engineered from the ground up for real drivers. But look closely and you'll find that it isn't actually all that new. That's because underneath all the changes is the old Vantage from 6 years ago. On the outside, the Vantage certainly still looks familiar because this is technically an extensive facelift. However, even to the untrained eye, it looks meaner and more muscular, and that's thanks to the wider width, which is now 30mm wider. This not only gives the car a better stance, but it also gives more space to house the wider wheels and tyres. The front of the car, everything from the A-pillar forwards is all new. You've got these taller matrix LED headlights with these 6 dashes for the LED daytime running lights. The grille is now 38% larger than before, and that increases the mass airflow by almost 30%. However, because of the new cooling package, the actual amount of cooling has increased by 50%. Down here, you've got these air curtains that you first saw on the 177 hypercar, and these channel air around the front wheels, reducing turbulence and thus drag. There's also a new front splitter, and that works with the new underbody to add more downforce. Along the side, you have a new range of 21-inch alloy wheels wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport S5 tyres, which are bespoke to the Vantage, and these measure 275mm wide at the front and 325 at the rear, so you can see just how serious this car is. The side grills have also been redesigned with this Aston Martin strake, which is more traditional and harks back to some older models. The side mirrors are new as well. They are frameless, so the entire housing moves around when you adjust it, just like some Polestar models, and that reduces the overall size of the housing and thus reduces drag. The Vantage still has flush door handles, but whereas previously you had to push on this side to open the door, here you just have to push it a little bit and the door handle stays up, making it easier to open the door. And this being Aston, you still have swan doors so that you don't hit the curb. At the back is where the Vantage looks most like its predecessor. You still have this ducktail spoiler, as well as the full-width taillights that mirror the profile of the front grille. But there are changes here as well. The diffuser is a little bit wider to match the rest of the car, and you've got these quad tailpipes which are much larger than before, and there are gills on either side of the rear bumper to extract air from the rear wheel arches and reduce air pressure. Overall, the Vantage, just like every other Aston Martin, is drop-dead gorgeous. Maybe it's a little bit less aggressive than the old model because the older one had those slit-like headlights, but actually I think this is a much more cohesive design overall. In here is where you can clearly see how all new this new Vantage is. Everything is completely new, taking a page from the DB12. You've got really slim air vents as well as this tall center console giving you a cockpit-like feel. You've also got this really nice and chunky steering wheel with a flat bottom, 3 spokes, and you've got really big gear shift pedals with this nice positive feel, which is really good, especially when you're on the track. Now, what's really new about this car is all the tech on board. You've got two 10.25-inch displays for the instrument cluster with this sort of, I don't know, they look like grab handles, but not sure why, but there you are. And then you have this infotainment touchscreen as well. It's all very new, really responsive. The only problem that I have with the tech
is that some of the clock faces are a little bit small. Additionally, the font on the center touchscreen is also quite small, especially when you go into the settings. It's a little bit hard to see, especially when you're driving. But that's not such a bad problem because this system can be updated over the air, and that gives you some leeway to have updates to change a little bit of the issues that they have currently. So that's a very good thing. Down in the center, you've got lots of hard buttons. Thankfully, none of them are capacitive touch buttons. You've got a row of functions over here, plus these rotary dials for your aircon, fan speed, as well as your volume. You've got this pretty small gear selector, as well as your engine start-stop button. Around this start-stop button is this really nice knurled metal knob for your drive modes. It's interesting because you would imagine that they would mimic the feel of a bezel on an expensive watch, with really precise detent, but here it's really chunky, really solid feeling. It's a little bit unrefined in terms of the noise maybe, but it's a very solid feel. It's almost like a race car switchgear over here, which is really nice. Down here you've got your usual chassis settings, so your ESP, your exhaust, your damper settings, as well as your start-stop, and over here there are some functions for the infotainment system, and you've got a manual button here in case you want to use the pedals. Other things of note, you've got two cup holders, a quite shallow armrest storage down here, and the glove box is also pretty shallow as well. But apart from that, this is actually quite a pleasant interior. And of course, in here you've got a wireless charger for your phone. In terms of audio, this car comes as standard with 11 speakers with a 390 watt output, but you can spec this car with a full 15 speaker Bowers & Wilkins sound system with 1170 watts of output, so that's pretty good. But honestly, with the car sounding this good with this V8 engine, I don't think it's really necessary. Beyond that, this interior, it's more business-like than it is a form of art, especially with all of the straight lines that you have over here, but it's all built to a very high standard, and of course everything is covered in really nice leather. And this car in particular has this nice blue tint carbon fiber that you have on the dashboard as well as the center console. I think that looks really nice.
Aston still has a deal with Mercedes-Benz, which means some of the switchgear, including the indicator stock, has been lifted straight off a Merc. And now that more and more of the interior is becoming bespoke, these bits stick out even more.
Now this car is obviously a two-seater, so there's no seats at the back. You have some shelving at the back, not much, but there is a space underneath the rear windscreen for placing a duffel bag of some sort, and the boot is quite big as well, so that's a very good thing. This car comes with two different seats. You've got these really nice sports seats for the road, fully adjustable with memory, heating and ventilation, and there's also a track seat option with carbon fiber buckets and manual adjustment for forwards and backwards, but the rest of it is all powered.
But it's under the skin where Aston has made the most significant changes, and it all starts with the engine. Under the bonnet, you still have a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 engine sourced from Mercedes-AMG. But there's a difference here. See, the original deal with Mercedes-AMG forbid Aston from tuning the engine, and it also didn't allow the car to have more power than Mercedes' own models. But when Lawrence Stroll took over the company, he renegotiated the deal, so now Aston's engineers have full reign. The changes are profound, and they include new cylinder heads, new cam profiles, new compression ratio, as well as, of course, bigger turbos. And the result of all that is that this car makes 30% more power than before, making 665 PS and 800 Nm of torque. That's an increase of over 150 horsepower over the previous Vantage. That's a lot. You've also still got an 8-speed ZF automatic gearbox, but it's been retuned for quicker shifts as well as harder edged character. The net result of all this is that this car will get from 0 to 100 km/h in just 3.5 seconds. Top speed, 325 km/h. This is a very serious car. The chassis upgrades are also pretty serious. There are stiffer front and rear suspension mounts, along with new Bilstein DTX dampers that give engineers greater latitude for tuning, plus a new e-diff at the rear. You also get a new electric power steering system that Aston says gives you more feel and better feedback. All this is controlled by a new central computer that also ensures you get just the right amount of stability control intervention at any given moment. Speaking of which, the ESP has a track mode that allows for greater slip, and there's also an 8-stage traction control system. All these things can be turned off, of course, just in case you want to pull big smoky drifts. That all sounds great, but does the Vantage actually work as a thoroughbred driver's car? Well, that's why we've come to the Circuito Monteblanco in southern Spain, a twisty, technical circuit that somehow manages to fit 11 corners into just 3.4 kilometers. It's here where we'll find out whether the Aston is any good. And sorry for how I look in an open face helmet.
Straight up. Oh, the noise. Listen to that. Great V8 roar. Coming to the first corner. Car immediately feels planted. Plenty of grip. It's right-hander. I really feel this car biting. We're not even pushing it at the moment. But generally, really fast. Braking hard for the hairpin. This optional carbon ceramics. This left-hander is really tight. Surprisingly tight. You can feel the car starting to slip. Traction control is reining it in. Let me run you through the numbers again. 665 PS, 800 Newton meters of torque from that 4-litre V8. Gets from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just 3.5 seconds, and it feels every bit as fast as that. Yes. Pinning it down on the main straight, 170, 180, 190, 200, 210, 220. This car is fast. Hard on the brakes. This car squirming a bit. That's to be expected. Really was to bite there, but to keep the steering straight. There's a swap ends. ZF 8-speed automatic. The gearbox in track mode. Really good. Performance oriented as expected. Going into downshift by myself, but let's make a few changes, shall we? Just to push the boundaries a little bit further on this car. Traction control, track, give it a little bit of slip. No stability control now. Go to manual. Really pushing this car down. Really good. Oh, starting to bite. I'm going to put a little bit of corrective lock on. This car is excellent. Feels really stable. Really responsive. Steering. Good weighting. Not too heavy. Steering is quite direct. Not too fast. At least on the track. Really good balance. It will bite you, this car. 665 PS, that will do that for you. You could turn in. It likes to tuck in as you brake, you trail brake to the corner. This is fun. Really fast. Good amount of power on this track. Nothing too crazy. Doesn't feel overpowered for this car. It's a really good amount of power. Really feels fun with a little bit of slip. Not really there. Drift this car.
But then I'm in Spain, driving a 600-odd horsepower Aston Martin. So of course, I get carried away a little bit.
Braking for this hairpin. Really good brakes. No fade whatsoever. And then, oh yes! Oh! Really grown up. It feels really grown up. Be a little bit careful. Ooh! It's a lot of slip. Bit of opposite lock there. We're only at DC level 5. There are 8 levels, and then there's an off. I don't even want to know what the level 8 is.
Well, can't hurt to at least try, can it?
So we have now maybe to 7. See what's what. down to 5. It's a bit much for me. Yeah, this is really, really good fun. Really enjoyable car. Really, really good fun. Plus the finish line. Whew.
All in all, a very impressive performance. But what's it like on the road?
Alright, out on the road in the new Vantage. Starting off in sport mode, and straight away on these rough country lanes, the Vantage feels really very stiff. Even in the softest sport mode, there's no GT mode like there is in the DB12. It's really quite firm. This is about on the edge of acceptability that I would feel for this car. You know, it's a sports car, it's not a GT car, so it's fine to ride a little bit harsh. I think if this were DB12, I'd be more worried. In this, it's quite firm, but it's fine. Out on the highway, the Vantage still feels a little bit compromised, I feel, especially on the rougher tarmac on some of the Seville highways. A lot of suspension noise, but once the road smoothens out, road noise is actually not too bad. Wind noise is also pretty well suppressed. Even I'm going now at 150, it still feels very, very comfortable. Just a little bit of background noise in that V8 engine. Open the taps a bit, hear that V8 rumble. Ooh! This car is fast. 600 horsepower. This car picks up speed in a way that barely imagine. This is a fast car, seriously fast car. Now we're off the highway. Straight away the Vantage feels really potent. Brakes are strong, turn-in is pretty sharp. The steering is a joy. It's not too fast, it's not like a Ferrari where your reactions are lightning fast. Here there is a little bit more breathing room, but still pin sharp. Really just flick your wrists to get around most corners. It's really enjoyable. Body control on this car, really, really good. Even at high speeds on this bumpy road, the car tracks straight and true. Just flick it into the corner, the car just feels so agile. Change direction one way, then the other. Really enjoyable. Here, the Vantage smoothens out the bumps. They're still there, but you don't get knocked around in this car like you would in some other high-performance cars. It's a really nicely balanced car. Really good grip coming from these tires. But the fact that the ESP light comes on every time you accelerate out of the first 2 gears tells you how much power this thing has to harness. And what power this is. 4-liter twin-turbo V8 makes a really, really loud noise. Oh my god, it's not musical in the traditional sense, but it's raucous and loud. Sounds like a Gatling gun being fired. Really energetic soundtrack. Carbon ceramics on this car starting to squeal. Not exactly what you want for a road car, but I suppose that's what the standard steel brakes are for. Still really strong braking performance, really strong pedal, no fade whatsoever. It's really, really enjoyable in the corners now. Pushing a little bit hard, start to feel cars' true character shine. It's a really potent performer. Feels really keyed into the road surface. Such a brute, especially with this engine noise. Ooh, it's hard work piloting this car through these bends. The ride's pretty firm, but this is exhilarating. Really good fun. The speed, the sound. This car feels special the minute you roll out. Within just a few kilometers, this car feels like it wants to play.
Downsides? Well, the ride at low speeds is really quite firm. And while the steering provides some surface level feel, it still doesn't give you a sense of what the front tires are doing. This is still a car that, when you understeer, you hear it rather than feel it. That aside, the Vantage is everything you'd want an Aston Martin to be. It's fast, engaging to drive, and most importantly, it's spectacularly good looking. It's simply bewitching, this car.
It used to be that Aston Martins were really good cars hampered by iffy software. That's all changed now. The interior upgrades mean that this Vantage offers very little in terms of compromise in return for a stellar driving experience. And with all these chassis upgrades and all the extra power, this Vantage is much more capable than the car it replaces. This is simply stunning.